Okay, so I'm going to go for a whole different approach than everyone else did, and I'm going to share a personal story. So every Sunday night, my family has family dinner, normally with my dad's side of the family. But this Sunday, we wanted to have dinner with my Saba, my mom's dad. And so we went to this small Italian restaurant with just me, my sister, and my mom. And as we paid the check and got up, my sister Ariel and I realized that she had worn her hair up, leaving her neck exposed and her tattoo. And then we hear it, my Saba's voice sternly going, "What is that on your neck?" As my sister quickly tried to cover it up, she goes, "That's my tattoo." Then my Saba continued by calling my sister damaged goods and saying how no respectable Jewish man would want to marry her now that she has defiled her body. Why is this? Tattoos have always seemed very taboo to Jews. It's kind of unheard of in the Jewish community to hear of someone who got a tattoo. It says in the Ten Commandments and in the Old Testament that one shall not defile their body or mark it in any way. This is why most Jews are turned off by the idea of tattoos, and why my Saba in particularly was, because we refer to him as the Don, or Paulie, the head of the Jewish mafia, because he has an extreme presence and is a very powerful man in our local Jewish community and in the Jewish community of Israel, and he's very well known. And so the fact that my sister got a tattoo sort of put a dent on that image. There's also many old wives' tales that state that if you get a tattoo as a Jew, you will not be able to be buried in a Jewish cemetery with the rest of your family. This has been proven to be a myth, but most religious figureheads still believe it. The problem is, getting piercings is also a form of defilement, so what about tattoos are so bad? It brings most people's mind to the Holocaust. The Holocaust was a time where the Jews were pretty much destroyed as a nation, as many of you know. And I had the privilege of this past year going to Poland and Prague. These are all pictures from my trip. And I got to see everything firsthand. It was a time where the Jews were shaken to our core and ripped apart, but we stayed strong and stayed as a nation. During my trip, I went to Majdanek, which is in Poland, and it's not one of the more well-known concentration camps, but it was the hardest one to be at because it is completely intact and can be up and running again in 72 hours. So as a teenage Jewish girl walking through a concentration camp that could be running again in 3 days, that's a pretty scary feeling. But one thing that was through my mind the entire time was the idea of being marked and getting a tattoo. Because you see it everywhere, you saw pictures and we saw survivors. And everyone has the numbers written on their forearm. This was a main thing of the Holocaust because it was our main point of being dehumanized in the most literal sense. We lost our identities and we became numbers. This is why most of the older generations of Jews do not agree with the ideas of tattoos or shy away from it because it immediately relates to the idea of the Holocaust and getting marked against our will. However, as you see in this picture, many of the younger generations of Jews today are taking a complete 360 and turning it all around. And yes, they are getting the same numbers that their grandparents got against their will, but they're doing this by choice, by 100% free will. And that is pretty much turning around and saying, fuck you to the Nazis, we're still here, and we are a strong nation. This is also a reason why most of the older generations of Jews are now becoming more open with the idea of tattoos, because it's showing a connection between the older generations and younger generations. When my sister got her second tattoo, we knew it would be much easier to hide from my Saba because it was down here on her hip, and why would he ever see that? But about a year ago, we took a family vacation to Cancun for my grandpa's 80th birthday, and this was the entire family, my mom's sister, brother, cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone. And we're sitting on the beach in Cancun in our bathing suits, and then we hear it again. My Saba goes, "What is that on you? Is that another one?" But this time, we took a different turn with it. My sister walked up to my Saba and said, "Read it." Then it hit him, hit the rest of the family, and he began to cry. Az v'hadar livsho v'tishka leyom achron. That means she's clothed in strength and dignity and faces the future cheerfully. This is a line from a prayer called Eshet Chayil. It's about a woman, a mom, a wife, and it's about a strong identity. This is a prayer that my Saba would read to my Savta, my grandma, every Friday night at dinner, and it became a routine. We all knew it. We would all say it for her. When she fell ill and her illness hit home and started getting really shaking the entire family, this prayer became more and more meaningful to our family because it meant one more time we got to say it and one more day to be with her. When she passed, this prayer was written on her tombstone. And at her grave, at the unveiling, my sister and I looked at each other and we said, we need this on our body. We both decided that we were going to get this tattoo. And now my sister has this tattooed on her. I'm getting mine in a month, and my dad also has a tattoo. But that doesn't make us bad Jews, just because all three of us have it. All this did was show my Saba, the Don, how tattoos are not so bad. And it's now, even though it is still considered very taboo for Jews to get tattoos, and it's becoming more open and more freeing because the older generations of Jews are realizing that we are using this as a way to connect in a meaningful way. And when tattoos have meanings, they're no longer seen as bad. So there, on the beach in Cancun, my Saba pulled in my sister, he hugged her, and thanked her.